Deuteronomy 8:18 says, "It is God who gives you the power to get wealth." But why was the original Hebrew word koach, which means strength, force, or capacity, downgraded in most translations? Why does the church ignore this verse while believers struggle financially? They didn't remove the verse, they removed its power. You've heard sermons on tithing, on giving, on waiting, but almost no one teaches what this verse actually unlocks. If you've prayed, fasted, and stayed faithful, and still feel stuck, it's not because you lack faith, it's because you were never taught the hidden mechanics of provision. Most pastors skip the Hebrew. Most churches fear what this really means. Today, we're going into the root. You'll see how a single word, koach, carried the full technology of divine wealth. You'll see how Joseph used it in prison, how Solomon activated it in silence, and how Jesus pointed to it without ever naming it. You'll never read Deuteronomy 8:18 the same way again, and by the end of this video, you'll stop asking for breakthrough and start moving in it. If you're the kind of person who's tired of shallow messages and hungry for real biblical depth, just hit like. It may seem small, but it tells YouTube this content matters. It tells them people are waking up to truth. And if even one verse in this video opens your eyes, you'll be glad you clicked now. Let's show the algorithm that real faith and real wisdom still have a voice. Joseph didn't ask to be in prison. He was faithful, wise, and obedient. And still, he was betrayed, accused, and forgotten. For years, he sat in a place that didn't match the favor God had spoken over him. But there's a verse in Genesis 39:21 that most people overlook. It says, "But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison." Favor in prison, provision in captivity, influence while bound. Most sermons stop there. They spiritualize Joseph's suffering, frame it as a waiting room, and encourage people to trust God in the dark. And yes, that's part of it. But what the original Hebrew reveals is something more dangerous, something active. The word translated as "gave him favor" is the Hebrew word chen, which means more than just grace. It implies strategic positioning, a divine enablement to be seen as valuable in systems designed to ignore him. Joseph didn't just wait in prison. He stewarded systems inside limitation. He managed resources. He interpreted patterns. He built trust with earthly gatekeepers. And that's what positioned him to govern when Pharaoh called. Now here's where it changes everything. Deuteronomy 8:18, the verse this video is built on, doesn't say God gives you money. It says he gives you power to get wealth. The Hebrew word for power is koach. But that word is never passive. It's used in Exodus to describe God's force splitting the Red Sea. It's used in Psalms to describe the energy of creation. In ancient Hebrew culture, koach was understood as both internal capacity and external strategy, a synergy between faith and wisdom, belief and movement. So here's what most modern believers miss. God never promised wealth to those who just wait faithfully. He promised koach, the capacity to recognize, build, and multiply opportunities through divine guidance. That's what Joseph had. That's what Solomon asked for. That's what Paul activated when he said, "I've learned the secret of being content, whether in plenty or in want." Today, we reduce biblical prosperity to either material greed or passive hope. But the truth is buried in the original language, and it's threatening to institutions that prefer you dependent. Let me tell you the moment this hit me. I was reading Deuteronomy 8:18 again for the 100th time, and I paused. I looked up the word koach, not in a commentary, but in the Hebrew itself. And I realized, this isn't just about power, it's about permission. God gave me permission to prosper, not by chance, not by manipulation, but by partnering with the wisdom He embedded in His Word. Think about your own life. Have you been waiting for breakthrough while ignoring the power God already placed in your hands? Have you been praying for provision, but afraid to step into leadership? Have you believed that stewardship only begins after you have more, rather than seeing stewardship as the activator of more? Joseph prospered inside a prison because he understood that limitation is never the enemy of calling. He interpreted dreams that weren't his. He managed wealth he couldn't touch. He built influence without a platform. That is koach in action. You've probably believed this verse said, "God will send you money." It never did. It said He gave you the power to create it. to see systems differently, to act while others wait, to carry strategy wrapped in faith. And the moment you understand that is the moment the prison stops defining you. One of the deepest conflicts believers face today is the silent war between faith and money. We're told to believe for provision, but warned not to desire wealth. We're taught that poverty is holy, yet we tithe expecting overflow. And this tension, this confusion, has quietly paralyzed millions of faithful people. Let's be honest, the Bible seems to send mixed signals. Proverbs 10:22 says, "The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow to it." But then 1 Timothy 6:10 warns, "The love of money is the root of all evil." Jesus said in Luke 12:33, "Sell your possessions and give to the poor." Yet Solomon, blessed by God himself, built the richest kingdom the world had ever seen. Which is it? Is money dangerous or divine? The answer is in what most pastors never teach: context, culture, and language. Proverbs was written by a king, Solomon, who governed through wisdom and wealth, both given by God. When he says, "The blessing of the Lord makes rich," he's not just talking about material gain. In Hebrew, the word rich, ashar, implies abundance in purpose, resources, and reputation. It's a result of alignment, not just accumulation. Now, 1 Timothy wasn't written by a king. It was written by Paul, a missionary who walked through cities funded by others, lived sacrificially, and warned against obsession. When he said, "The love of money is the root of all evil," he was addressing a culture where wealth had become identity, not tool. So what happens when we read all these verses through the lens of modern fear? We start believing that wanting more is wrong. We think that wealth will make us selfish. We fear prospering will disconnect us from God. But it's not your desire that's the problem. It's your definition. The truth is, the Bible holds a clear, powerful pattern, and it's not about either or. It's about alignment and assignment. Let's look at three people. Solomon asked for wisdom, and God gave him wealth, not as a reward, but as a result. He didn't chase riches, he chased understanding. And in return, he built systems that served people, created peace, and sustained influence across generations. Paul didn't reject wealth, he just refused to be owned by it. He received financial support from churches, he funded missions, he knew how to steward both lack and abundance. His secret wasn't poverty, it was contentment with clarity. Lydia was a businesswoman, a seller of purple fabric, which was a luxury trade. She hosted the first church in Philippi in her own home. She financed the gospel and created space for spiritual movement. And the Bible doesn't shame her success. It celebrates her leadership. Even Jesus had financial supporters. Luke 8:3 names women who provided for him out of their means. He wasn't broke. He was focused. You see the pattern? Wisdom first. Wealth follows. Purpose governs. Prosperity serves. This isn't prosperity gospel. This is biblical design. A blueprint buried under centuries of religious fear. And now think about your own life. Have you rejected opportunities because they looked too worldly? Have you felt guilty for dreaming bigger? Have you confused humility with invisibility? The enemy doesn't fear a believer who waits. He fears the one who builds, with purity, with purpose, with power. Solomon governed, Paul planted, Lydia hosted, Jesus multiplied. And you? You were never meant to live in confusion. You were meant to live in clarity, walking in the pattern they followed. It's not about money, it's about mission. It's not about riches, it's about revelation activated through responsibility. And once you see the pattern, you'll never see wealth the same way again. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. Are you afraid of prospering because it feels unspiritual? Have you internalized the belief that success might pull you away from God, rather than closer to Him? Have you ever felt a moment of breakthrough approaching, then sabotaged it with guilt, hesitation, or delay? What if you've been rejecting the very thing God has been trying to give you? Maybe you were taught that money is dangerous. Maybe you saw spiritual leaders fall and assumed wealth caused it. Maybe you believe that to be close to God, you must be far from abundance. But let's go deeper. Have you confused wisdom with fear? Have you labeled your hesitation as discernment, when really it's a deep-rooted discomfort with stepping into visibility, impact, or responsibility? There's a pattern I've seen in too many believers. They ask God to bless them, then run from the platform he gives. They pray for provision, but decline the assignment that would unlock it. They fast and declare breakthrough, then say, "I'm not ready," when the door opens. So let me ask again, are you truly afraid of lack, or are you more afraid of prospering? Because prosperity demands stewardship. It exposes what you believe about yourself, your calling, and your authority. Ask yourself, does your money serve purpose, or do you serve it? Is your career just survival, or is it your altar? Is your bank account a thermometer of your worth, or a tool of your worship? We've been programmed to feel spiritual when we suffer. We've been taught that less means holy. But what if holiness is not the absence of wealth, but the presence of divine alignment? Jesus didn't fear influence. He just didn't let it own him. Joseph didn't fear administration. He used it to feed nations. Lydia didn't fear business. She used it to build the church. Paul didn't fear provision. He used it to keep going. And you have a gift that the world needs. But if you keep hiding it behind false humility, fear of judgment, or religious guilt, you'll keep cycling through spiritual highs and financial frustration. You're not wrong for wanting more. You're not greedy for desiring overflow. You're not selfish for believing God could trust you with much. You've just been trained to settle. And today, that training ends. Let me ask you, which of these questions hit you the hardest? Drop a comment. I actually read them, and it's how I choose the next video. Your voice matters here. Your process matters. This isn't a channel. It's a movement of believers who are done playing small. You are an heir to divine promises. Walk in that truth. If you're still here, you're not casual. You're someone who's digging deeper, someone who's not satisfied with surface-level sermons or recycled teachings. You've stayed through tension, through questions, through layers of revelation, and that tells me something. You're hungry, not for hype, for truth, for alignment, for something real. We exposed a verse that was never truly removed, but its power was. We saw how Koach is not passive strength, but divine strategy. We watched Joseph operate in it inside limitation. We saw how Solomon, Paul, Lydia, each lived it differently, yet perfectly aligned. And we held up a mirror to the fear that's been hiding under your theology. If you felt tension, that's good. If you felt seen, even better. Because what you just heard isn't information, it's activation, and it's only the beginning. There's another verse churches rarely preach, one that seems to say that God blesses poverty. You've heard it quoted to justify suffering, limit dreams, and glorify lack. But what if we've misunderstood it completely? What if that verse doesn't mean what we were taught, but holds the next piece of the biblical wealth code? That's what we're uncovering next. So stay close, because when you start seeing scripture through the original lens, everything changes. What you just heard wasn't a message, it was a key. And keys are made to open doors. You're an heir. Act like it. Walk in it. Return for the next revelation, because we're just getting started. If you got value from this, hit subscribe. This isn't just a channel. It's a movement of believers who are done with shallow faith and religious cliches. We're after real wisdom, real revelation, and real transformation. We go deep here, and we go together. Drop a comment, declare the promise, share the truth. You're not just watching, you're building. You are an heir to divine prosperity. Walk in that truth.